Spider-Man 2 is the second Spider-Man film directed by Sam Raimi, and it stars Tobey Macguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, and Alfred Molina. And I gotta issue a little spoiler warning because I totally forgot to do that in my review of the first Spider-Man movie and my Beauty and the Beast review. But yeah, I'm going to talk about this movie as if you have seen the movie before or you just don't care about spoilers, otherwise you've been warned. Now, I have mentioned that the first Spider-Man is one of my favorite movies of all time, but Spider-Man 2 is my favorite of any Spider-Man movie ever made. Because the first Spider-Man, it holds a special place in my heart, but Spider-Man 2, it's my favorite because what I love about this movie is just steps it up in every way possible. And I'm not just talking about the action, even though the action is better in this movie than in the first, but I'm just talking about character development, script, and the execution. This film steps it up in every way possible. And in this film, it takes place sometime after Spider-Man 1, and we see Peter Parker. He's struggling between being Spider-Man and his normal life. You know, he's trying to juggle two jobs between working at the Bugle from time to time and being a pizza delivery boy, which he got fired from in the first 5 minutes. And he's trying to juggle his home life and his school life. He's failing in class, in which we also meet Dr. Kirk Connor's a little world building I liked right there because you know that was the villain that almost never was because you see a little detail he has no arm. But anyway, so he's failing in class, and then of course we have his home life between his aunt Mary Jane and Harry. You know, Harry, he's a little bitter because Spider-Man killed Harry's father, and Peter might know who Spider-Man is, and he just won't tell him. So Harry's a little resentful towards Harry. And then Mary Jane, she still has feelings for Peter, and she doesn't know Peter does, even though he clearly does. But then she gets mad at him because he didn't make an 8 o'clock showing of a play that she's in, and that she's about to get married to J. Jonah Jameson's son. And finally, even Aunt May has a little bit more to do in this film because, you know, after Uncle Ben died, you know, life is kind of taking a toll on her because they're about to foreclosure on her house. She's struggling even to the point where it's like, you know, she has a birthday party for Peter, and then she gives him $20, and then Peter declines it, and then she's like, yes, you can take this money. For God's sake, I know it's not much, but please take it, and don't you dare leave it on the table. Like what I like about that is like, it's real life right there. What I like about this film is the layers it's have for not just Peter, but its characters. But of course, you know, Peter, you know, what I just like about it is, you know, life is just pounding Peter to the point where Peter's so stressed out that he's starting to lose his powers, and he starts to question, like, is this what I'm supposed to be? Am I supposed to be Spider-Man? And, you know, he's trying to juggle his real life. He even has a dream where he's talking to Uncle Ben and he tells him, I'm Spider-Man, no more. It's a very heartbreaking scene. And then we get that shot where, you know, he puts the Spider-Man suit in the trash can and then he walks away and he's in the alleys. Like, I like that shot because it's something straight out of the comic book. And then, of course, you know, it cuts to probably the most corny scene in this movie, which is the raindrops keep falling on my head scene where, you know, he has his glasses back on and he's doing good in school and everything's all right. You know, and then that terrible freeze frame. Now, I know that's a little nitpicky for me. Like, yeah, it's a little corny, but the rest of the film is just so brilliant that I'm willing to gloss over that. And of course, I mentioned the other characters, like Harry Osborn. You know, he's still a little bitter because he wants to find out who Spider-Man is, even to the point where he makes a deal with Doc Ock, which I'll get more into later. And Mary Jane, you know, she still loves Peter, but she doesn't know if he loves her back. It's pretty much a back and forth between Peter and Mary Jane with their feelings. Then with Aunt May, I mentioned earlier that she's about to have a foreclosure on the house, but she also feels some type of guilt because she feels responsible for Uncle Ben's death when it was really Peter Parker, and he even talks to her at the table, saying that he was partially responsible for Uncle Ben's death, and she just has that, and Aunt May has that look on her face like, oh my God. And then she just walks away, and I just like that little detail right there. It's like she doesn't know how to handle that. Should she be mad at Peter, or should she just move on with it, or is she just, you know? It's pretty much the build-up of the characters is what I love about this movie and what gives this movie layers. And the final payoff with the characters is what makes the film brilliant. J. Jonah Jameson, of course, he's back in this movie, and you know, Peter Parker, he's trying not to give him pictures of Spider-Man because, you know, J. Jonah Jameson, he continues to think Spider-Man's a bad guy enough that he just takes random pictures of, I don't know, in the ocean or birds or whatever. And J. Jonah Jameson's like, Parker, I don't pay you enough to be a sensitive artiste. And then Robbie and Jameson, they're just like, I told you Spider-Man's not a menace, and I told you I'll take care of it. And of course, we gotta talk about Doc Ock, Dr. Octopus himself. Dr. Otto Octavius, played by Alfred Molina. And honestly, I cannot think of anyone in the mid-2000s who was made to play Doc Ock other than Alfred Molina. And I just love how his character just changes from one place to another, and that's what I call a character arc, is when you start with the character in one place, and then he ends up in another. You know, he's just this mild-mannered scientist who just wants to he's pretty much trying to bring fusion energy to the world, and then he has a wife, and then that tragic accident where he has that demonstration, and then everything goes wrong, and then that heartbreaking scene where the glass it shatters and then kills his wife. Just feels like he lost everything to the point where the metal claws that's attached to his back, they all have an artificial intelligence, and he can't block him anymore. And then they influence his mind, and he tries to make the machine again. And I also got to talk about that one scene where Otto Octavius in the hospital, and then you got that scene where the claws they just come to life, and they just wreak havoc, and they just kill all the doctors. Like I just love that scene because it looked like something straight out of a horror film, which is ironic because Sam Raimi, he directed the Evil Dead movie, so that would make sense. And of course, this is also my segue into the action, because I mentioned the action in this movie is way better than in the first movie. Like you got that bank scene where Doc Ock, he robs the bank, and then he takes Aunt May, and Spider-Man tries to save her. I just love that scene right there. Then you also got the scenes where Spider-Man, he's just going after criminals. Those scenes are better than in the first. And of course, the train sequence. One of my favorite train sequences and one of my favorite action scenes in a comic book film. I love that scene, the high energy, and then Peter, he has to stop the train, and I just love the part where, he's just screaming, he's trying to stop the train, and then he just passes out because he doesn't have any more, he's just done, and then the people grab him, little Jesus imagery right there, but then they see him, and they see him with his mask off, and they're just grateful. He's just a kid, no older than my son, and I totally forgot about this part, but he does eventually get his powers back once Doc Ock, he kidnaps Mary Jane, telling him, I want you to find Spider-Man and tell him to meet me at the clock tower, because Harry, he makes a deal with Doc Ock. Hey, find Spider-Man and I'll give you all the tritium you need, because the tritium is what he needs to power the machine. But I feel like if not, he had not gotten his powers back, and if it wasn't for that speech that Aunt May gives him, because Aunt May, she does forgive him for what happened to Uncle Ben. After that, she gives him this speech about, this little kid in the neighborhood, he needs Spider-Man, and she tells him all about, there's a hero in all of us that gives us strengths and make us honest. But the train sequence, the people they see him with his mask off, and they vow they won't tell anyone. And then Doc Ock takes Peter Parker, and then Harry, he does take the mask off, and he sees that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and I just love that, because he's like, Peter, you killed my father. And then Peter's just like, look, there are bigger things happening than me and you right now. Please, I got to stop Doc Ock. I just love those looks between the two of them, because it's like, look, I know I killed your father, but that's really not the issue at the moment. And then we finally get that final battle where Doc Ock is about to power the machine again, and then they fight for a little bit. I love that action scene too. But then Doc Ock, he finally comes back to the light, and he realizes what he's done enough, that he sacrifices himself to stop the machine. And then even after that, Mary Jane, she sees Peter with his mask off, and I just love that, because it's like, she finally knows. And not just that, but, she just has that look on her face like, I get it now. It all makes sense now. And I just love it, because she finally understands why Peter has been, for lack of a better word, rejecting her. It's because Peter Parker is Spider-Man, that could endanger her. All right, now before I get to the big happy ending, I gotta talk about this scene right here, where Harry, he found out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and then Harry, he starts having illusions where he starts to see his father, played by William Dafoe again, and then he shatters the mirror, and then he sees the Goblin lair, and then he realizes, oh, my father was the Green Goblin. And then I just love that music from the first film. It cues in. I just love that scene, because like, that's how you do an end credit scene. If that was an end credit, if they put that at the end credits, that would have been perfect. That's how you do an end credits. Take that. Spider-Man movie did end credits before Marvel made it cool. Then finally, Mary Jane, she leaves. And then Mary Jane, she finally leaves her wedding to go be with Peter. And then she tells him, look, I know there'll be dangers, but screw you. I want to be with you, and I want to face them with you. And it's wrong that we have to be half alive. And then I just love... And I also love when she tells him, isn't it about time for someone saved your life for once? Like, when I heard her say that, I was like, I almost shed a tear. Like, that was beautiful right there. And then they finally kiss, and it's like, yes, what I love about it is the payoff. It's like, everything for all the characters, it's earned. It's like everything that they've been building up for the characters, it's finally earned for them. And then Mary Jane, she tells him, go get him, Tiger, after they hear police sirens, and then he jumps out the window again, that final cherry on top is Peter Parker. He's flying as Spider-Man through the city of New York, and then he's flying with all the police cars and sirens and all that, and we see the American flag. And then the final shot is Mary Jane. She's at the balcony, and she has that look on her face like, oh, I'm alone now. So, it's just that uncertainty of what life will bring with her and Peter, as she knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and they finally embrace their relationship. And that's how you cap a movie off. Look, in the end, again, I love this movie with a passion. It's not only my favorite film, it's my favorite Spider-Man film. I know I said the first Spider-Man is my favorite of all time, but again, Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man film, if that makes sense. Again, this movie steps it up in every way possible with all the characters. The action was better, the script is better, the characters, the stakes are high for them. My second favorite villain behind Green Goblin, because Dr. Octopus is my second favorite Spider-Man film. One of the best comic book films ever made. And I'm going to give Spider-Man 2 5 stars, for it is truly a masterpiece. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and be on the lookout for my review of Spider-Man 3 coming out next month. And, okay, got some shit to say about that one, but we'll see. I may like it, I may not like it, but we'll just see how I like it with adult eyes now. But that's it for the day. If you like what you see, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more, check out my channel. The link is in the description below. And be sure to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Movie Pilot, and Periscope. Peace.